Hey, it's Wednesday, May 15th, 2019, and this is the Pro and Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott, just as it says there at the bottom of the slide. Well, welcome to the show. It's Wednesday, like I say. I'm here in Hudson, Wisconsin in my little office in my home, and, the purpose of the show, I don't know how many of you are tuning in regularly, so I apologize for being a little bit repetitive here at the beginning. But the purpose is to really examine issues and try to get the bias out, so separate the wheat from the chaff. And the last handful of shows, actually, I was talking about abortion, and so step-by-step discussion about abortion. And then the last show I did was a straw man proposal. Okay, it's sometimes helpful to, when you're trying to resolve something, to just make a proposal. Just say, well, here's some ideas. And I always am encouraging us to try to do something that's more holistic. So to step back and try to make it so that it's whatever's being done, there's a better chance that it'll be acceptable. With 340 million people in this country, you're never going to do anything that makes everybody happy. It's just not going to happen. But you can do something that makes 80, 85, 90% of the people okay. They're accepting. It's all right what you're doing. Some people will be happy, some people will be less than happy, but anyway. So today I really wanted to go into the websites, and again, so it's been a while since I did this. So we try to look at some generally thought of as liberal or left-leaning kinds of news programs, and then National Public Radio is kind of our non-biased view, if you will, and then right-leaning into Fox and Breitbart. And so let's go into those. I have them on my iPad here. I just go in and I look at them. So you're welcome to look at those same websites and make sure that I'm not misleading you in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, I strongly advise you to do that stuff. You must trust, but at least verify. So either you can mistrust or you can trust and verify. And that's what I try to do, because my experiences and I think the statistics bear this out. There's only a very, very small fraction of our population that commits criminal acts, behaves in fraudulent ways, these kinds of things. It's a very small percentages. So the vast majority of us are pretty honest and try to treat other people pretty fairly. And this has been my experience. So, I have a tendency to trust people, but then you're foolish if you don't also verify. Okay. So the Huffington Post, well, let's start with Breitbart tonight. So let's go to Breitbart. Breitbart says their lead story is he's a representative, Jim Jordan. So in the House of Representatives, he's a Republican, and he's urging the Democrats. Apparently he's got wind of a internal memo that the Democrats, at least that's the story, were circulating or something, saying that they were going to try to coordinate an attack on Donald Trump. Now, when I say attack, I don't mean with guns and bombs. I'm talking about they're going to try to assist each other in creating information or whatever that would cause Mr. Trump to have trouble in the government. And depending on what that is, if it's information that talks about his performance, or some of the or his actual factual information that talks about if there is any fraudulent activities or activities with foreign governments, not in the best interest of the United States and so on. Well, that's perfectly appropriate, actually, in every possible view of that word appropriate. But if they're, proposing that they try to, catch him with a porn star again, by putting somebody in a place where, he might get involved with them or something like that, or other such more sleazy things, that to me that would be inappropriate. But anyway, that's the headline, is that Jim Jordan is looking for this this memo that he says exists. He's heard that it exists, and wants the Democrats to produce it so that people can read it. And then one of the other things that's in the Breitbart, it just says Trump will give a speech on immigration plan. So that's immigration. It looks like tonight immigration and abortion are still both in the. So abortion I've been talking about for a few days because it had come up, and it's still because I believe Alabama just signed into law a very, very strict anti-abortion legislation bill. So anyway, that is Breitbart. The main thing is Democrats are doing something. The insinuation is that it's incorrect in trying to do something against Mr. Trump. So Fox News headlines with the abortion signing Alabama. So the governor of Alabama is a woman, and the governor says. So this law in Alabama basically bans all abortions, and it also makes it the doctors who perform them can be punished, and pretty severely. And they don't even have any exception for rape or incest or something like that. So it's a pretty darn stringent anti-abortion law. And so I've read, and encourage you to read them, but I've read some of the background here, and some of the legislators that are proposing this, they're pushing what they admit are pretty, perhaps overly conservative laws, but they're trying to force their way in front of the Supreme Court, because they want to overturn Roe versus Wade, and they see they want to get something in front of the Supreme Court as quickly as they possible. So one of the ways they feel like they might be able to press that issue is by passing legislation that's perhaps or in their minds, even in their own minds, overly restrictive, but that will get it in front of the Supreme Court. And so looks like that's what they're trying to do. So that was Fox News. NPR talks about Trump he's to outline immigration plan, and that would basically overhaul who's allowed into the U.S. So it's a very by the way, so again, I talk about the bias in the titles and stuff like that. So this is, he's the picture that they show, and the headline are not inflammatory. These are the things that I suggest you look at as far as people are trying to bias you. Even the pictures that they pick, do they show some kind of image of somebody that like it was a few days ago, and James Comey was in one of these websites, and they pick some kind of like sneering, sneaky looking picture, and they're inferring that Comey had done some kind of sneaky thing behind the scenes. And anyway, it was the whole presentation that again, in my view, was trying to bias people into thinking something. But anyway, so NPR, very straightforward. There's no inflammatory words here. It's just Trump to outline immigration plan that would overhaul who's allowed in the U.S. Now that's a real, honest headline. No inflammatory words, no inflammatory pictures, just the headline. So this is something that you should look for. Interestingly enough, it kind of semi-related to abortion. So that, again, immigration and abortion are the two things in tonight's headlines. So it says U.S. births fell to a 32-year low in 2018. And then it quotes here a demographer. I've never read this word before, but they cite a demographer, I believe is how it would be pronounced. Birth rate is a barometer of despair, according to this person. So at least this person is arguing that even though the economy is in fairly good shape and people are fairly well employed, there's a lot of despair in the country. Don't know if you feel that or not. Anyway, that's so one of the implications, according to this fellow, is that when people aren't feeling too good about their lives, they don't have children. It kind of makes sense to me. But you should, I don't know how you feel about how things are in this country at the moment. But it doesn't surprise me that there's some amount of despair. There's so much, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this show is because there's so much animosity around some of these issues and so much rhetoric. And we got to get beyond that, folks. We got to, instead of standing on both sides of the street and screaming at each other and throwing sticks and stones at each other, we got to walk to the center of the street and say, look, I'm your neighbor. We may not agree on everything, but can't we talk and talk and have reasoned and reasonable discussions, and try to keep all the rhetoric and the inflammatory stuff out of it, right? Okay. So now moving into the left here, so CNN. So CNN's titles are Alabama's controversial anti-abortion bill is now law. So yes, Governor Kay Ivey signed the bill. Don't really see anything there. Now, in the center of CNN's website, the number of stinking rich people. Okay, so that's inflammatory. All right, so stinking rich people, the number of, again, it's the headline should be, I don't know, the new data, something like new data on the number of rich people in the U.S. Something like that. It's not inflammatory. But the number of stinking rich people in the U.S. Now, I'm not lying to you. So there it is, and it's in red at the center of the page, the number of stinking rich people. So again, when you're looking through the information, you're really looking for who, what, when, and where, and you want to leave behind this inflammatory stuff. And then Huffington Post, it has this, so one of the top stories is, it says even Pat Robertson, which many of you probably know is a TV evangelist, or he was for many years. That's what he's known for. And it says even Pat Robertson says Alabama's abortion bill is too extreme. And I did read an article on that, and Pat Robertson is basically saying it is too extreme because, again, he's part of the people that would love to see something go in front of the Supreme Court, but he thinks that this bill is so restrictive and so tough on abortion and doctors and so on that he says I think there's no hope that the Supreme Court would say that this is a good thing. Anyway, and then the interesting thing at the center of this is it says the punishers, Alabama abortion banned by 25 white guys. So the sub headline is every Senate vote for Alabama's abortion ban was from a white man. Now, I think the headline is intended to be confrontational and to instill emotion, but it is a good little bit of information that, and it seems to be true, every Senate vote in Alabama's ban was from a white man, and they're fairly old white men, most of them. So, and if you watch the previous discussions I had about abortion, I really feel like women should be obviously have a huge integral part of this discussion, and we should be listening to them about what they feel, again based on all the facts, but still this thing with abortion, it's a special thing for women, and because men, I cannot do this. I cannot be pregnant. I cannot really understand it. And women, I mean, their bodies go through all kinds of physical changes and stuff like that. It's a huge thing. Pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, and post-pregnancy is a huge thing for women. And men, we can be empathetic to understanding and stuff like that, but we will never fully comprehend and understand it because we can't experience it. It's just that simple. So anyway, so I think that's it for tonight's show. Hopefully we'll have something other than abortion to talk about tomorrow. It's 5 days in a row. Sorry. But it's abortion is a topic, and there are many other topics. So, racism, civil rights, and the budget deficits and taxes, and on and on and on. There are many things that it's perfectly appropriate for us to talk about for some days in a row. But anyway, so abortion being one of the most emotionally charged and solemn of them. All right, so signing off today, Wednesday, May 15th. I hope you found the show to be interesting and thought-provoking, and hope you'll join us again tomorrow, every day at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Again, this is Michael Ott and the Pro and Con Show. I hope wherever you are, you have a great evening. Bye for now.